On March 30th, 1992, Anthony Hopkins won an Oscar for Best Actor in a Leading Role for his portrayal of Dr. Hannibal Lecter in The Silence of the Lambs.
And the Oscar goes to Anthony Hopkins in The Silence of the Lambs.
Now, this shouldn't be a surprise. Hopkins is one of the greatest screen actors of all time, and his role in The Silence of the Lambs is one of the finest and most iconic performances in the history of motion pictures. What's so surprising is that he was given an award for Best Leading Actor, when in reality he appears in the film for a little less than 16 minutes or 1/8 of the film's entire runtime. Most of the film's iconography, memorable scenes, and most quotable moments come from Hopkins' Hannibal Lecter, however.
A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
But what makes Lecter such a great character comes from the writing of Ted Talley, Jonathan Demme's direction, and of course, Hopkins' amazing performance. And today I would like to examine how these three elements come together to form one of the greatest on-screen characters of all time.
Good morning.
But to begin, let's take a look at how the writing adds to his character. Lecter is a man of contrast. For example, the dimly lit cells of the other prisoners or patients compared to his clean, neat, and organized cell. In fact, you can just stop at the contrast between him and the other prisoners. Even within his own character, he is both a genius and a madman, someone with a perfect understanding of human behavior, yet someone who no other human can understand.
Well, that's what I want for Lecter. But he's a compassionate man, and he's a humanitarian. He's a good man locked inside this insane mind.
And this contrast extends past the story and into the writing. The Silence of the Lambs in many ways follows a very traditional story. Very briefly, Clarice is in her ordinary world, the FBI. She is called to adventure and passes the threshold through her interactions with Lecter. She transforms through facing conflict and ultimately beats her antagonist, Buffalo Bill, and returns to the FBI as a trained and established agent. But here's my question. Where does Lecter fit into the formula? You could argue that he acts as a mentor, guiding Clarice to where she needs to be, but he is also engaged in active conflict with her, trying to manipulate information out of her in order for her to defeat Buffalo Bill. She needs to first overcome the conflict of Lecter. He helps her, but only through conflict that she has been building throughout the entire relationship of the two. In Act 2, a very unique subplot develops. Lecter becomes the protagonist of his own story as he tries to escape captivity. Whether or not you root for him is up to you, but what is undeniable is that there's a much smaller story with a beginning, middle, and an end within the larger one. This unique fit into an otherwise conventional narrative puts the audience in a unique state of nervousness. We're familiar with how stories are told, and this breaks the rules. Lecter doesn't seem to fit anywhere, and that's just one example of it. The way that his character is a part of the story structure is also unique. He has a presence that is felt much more than it is seen, and this comes from the way that he interacts with Clarice. In the first half of the film, he has 3 interactions with her, and the direct result of these interactions is Clarice doing some work. Even though we don't see him in this scene, for example, it's impossible not to think about him when she is exploring his storage unit on his orders. Whenever Clarice is in between conversations with him, she is doing the work that he tells her to. He doesn't need to be on screen to be thought of. He is also a frequent topic of discussion.
You haven't mentioned anything about the information contained in my report or Dr. Lecter's offer.
Again, he doesn't need to be seen to be felt. It's his lingering presence that makes him such a great character. In the second half of the film, the focus of character shifts away from the relationship with Clarice. He has already given her everything that she needs, and his narrative focuses on his escape. After he escapes, his presence continues to be felt. Although he never does come after Clarice, the possibility is always out there. Not necessarily to attack her, but it's clear that he is interested in her and who she is. So when she is at the location that he knows about and told her to go to, the idea of him showing up is very possible, and always in the back of our heads. The cinematic technique of director Jonathan Demme in collaboration with cinematographer Tak Fujimoto and editor Craig McKay all helps add to the horror of Hannibal Lecter. His work is very reserved. There's very little that he utilizes that is there purely for the sake of style. Everything has a very tangible purpose. One of Demme's favorite shots is the close-up, which he uses to make you feel very uncomfortable. He frames his actors in the very center of the frame and focuses on their emotion.
I definitely wanted to use subjective camera style where the audience is placed in the shoes of the characters.
He also uses it to show off power. The majority of the time spent on these close-ups is on Lecter. We do see Clarice in some as she gains more confidence with him, but the use of these shows the uneven power struggle that he is easily able to control. There's a great episode of Every From a Painting that goes into more depth on this very issue, but it also serves the purpose of getting Lecter into your head. He's an intimidating figure. The center framing and the blurred background makes it impossible to focus on anything else. Demme's stylistic choices sets it up, and Hopkins' amazing performance finishes the deed of making you feel uncomfortable. The final piece of the puzzle that is perhaps most important but also hardest to quantify is the performance by Anthony Hopkins. There are a few reasons why this performance works so well with Hopkins' acting style. Hopkins, who is classically trained and began his career on the stage, embodies the extravagant. In many ways, his character is giving a performance. He's trying to manipulate Clarice as well as his captors. The slight exaggeration in most everything his character does.
Good nutrition is giving you some length of bone, but you're not more than one generation from poor white trash.
Feels inauthentic and ultimately helps to make him feel so much more intimidating. We know that there is something much darker hiding beneath what should be a calm exterior. The way he is so easily able to calmly and able to deliver horrible and violent lines as if they are normal, everyday conversation shows us what kind of a character he really is.
I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner.
In an interview following the film's release, Hopkins said, "I read the script and boom, I knew intuitively how to play him."
No, I didn't do any research. I just played him from my own experience.
He's able to capture the intensity in the aforementioned contrast to bring to life one of the most iconic cinematic characters of all time. Of course, like anything and everything in film, creating a great character is a group effort. It begins with writing and then moves on to the on-set decisions by directors and actors alike. It's rare when all these elements are able to work cohesively together, but when they do, the result is an unforgettable cinematic powerhouse.
I said, I'm sending a script over called Silence of the Lambs, and I thought it was a children's story, a bedtime story. And I knew when I read the script it was probably going to change a lot of things in my life.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed. It's easy to forget how terrifying this movie is, and so much of it comes from the brilliance of Hannibal Lecter. So much went into making him as one of the best on-screen characters of all time, and hopefully I was able to shed some light on what makes him so great. I'd also like to mention that this video is made possible because of Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the channel, that's the best way to do so. There are a lot of great rewards over there, including early access, a bonus audio commentary, and even getting a say in what video comes next. So if you're interested, there's a link on screen. There's also a link to my most recent video in which I looked at The Office and how a TV sitcom can teach us a lot about the fundamental rules of storytelling. So if you're interested in that, check it out, and thank you for watching.